Are you a crocheter, a knitter, some type of fiber artist who is looking to turn that hobby into more of a side hustle? If you're looking for ways to make money from your yarn hobby, then today's video is for you. I'm going to go over several avenues and really kind of deep dive into some different aspects of making money through yarn, whether it's crochet, knit, a bunch of different things we'll cover. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please stick around. The very first thing I'm going to talk about is the absolute obvious, and it's what we're doing right now. If you're looking to start a business that has really like the lowest barrier to entry, it would be starting a YouTube channel. And I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of not always easy, and it's a lot more work than you'd think it would. But as far as startup costs, you really don't have much of anything. You can totally use your smartphone to film and sometimes even edit and upload, but you don't start making money overnight. That is for sure. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of planning and strategizing and really working towards making that your goal. You definitely have to be willing to work at it for quite a while for free before making any money. So as far as side hustles go, it's the easiest to start. It's definitely not the quickest. So there are definitely a lot of pluses to it, but if you're looking to start making money like ASAP, it might not be the avenue for you. Next thing I want to do is cover a couple terms I'm going to use. Number one is ideal customer. So that's pretty obvious, but that is the person that is like your demographic. That is the person who is most likely to buy your product and is also necessary in being able to identify in order to successfully sell products. The next term is B2C. That is business to consumer. So that means you as the business are selling your product to a consumer. B2B, business to business. So you as a business are selling your product to another type of business. Now, I do have another video that I put out about a year ago on some different ways that you can make money through yarn. And it was much more of like a brainstorming type of session. I did get a couple comments on there, not a lot, but a couple just saying, you can't make money off of these. You can't make a living off of doing things like this. And I just want to address that real quick because generally speaking, the term side hustle, which is what I'm talking about today, generally can't replace a full-time income. So I do just want to address that head on. Now, I think this is great if you're like me and you do work full-time and like YouTube is my side hustle. It is also great if you are retired and you have retirement income and you're just looking for something a little bit to supplement that income. Or maybe you are a stay-at-home parent and it's something where you just want a little bit of extra spending money of your own or a little bit of spending money to put towards like a family goal or something like that. These aren't meant to be like an all-encompassing income to replace your regular day job. But you know what? With hard work and determination and probably a little bit of luck, but definitely skill, you very well may be able to turn these into a full income. But for the purpose of this video, this is definitely like just going up a notch. So we're taking your hobby, something you love, and bumping it up a notch and turning it into a side hustle so that you do have a little bit of revenue from it. I'm going to try to talk fast, and I'm also going to make sure that I edit out and try to get rid of any random tangents I go on, any little bit of fluff, and really try to hone this in as much as possible. But I do also want to go and make it as detailed as possible. If there's something that you don't understand, definitely go ahead and put it down in the comments, and I will do my best to answer it. And then that way it can benefit anybody else watching and reading in the comments as well. So the very first thing to take your hobby into a side hustle is going to be a B2C type of business, a business to consumer. And I'm going to touch on two types of consumers. Now, one of them is going to be a non-crocheter. And then the second one is going to be a crocheter. So let's talk about the B2C type of business to a non-crocheter. Okay, so this is probably the very first thing that's going to come to mind. If you're thinking about turning crochet or knit or whatever into a business, what's the first thing generally everybody thinks about? You're going to take your stuff and you're going to sell it either on like an online marketplace, or you're going to go physically to markets and sell them. While this statement isn't exclusive, for the most part, most of your consumers that are buying a finished product aren't going to be crocheters or knitters themselves. I'm not saying that's a hard, steadfast rule, but for the most part, it's pretty much going to be people who cannot crochet or knit. For me, I know, like, I have never done a market. I have thought about it a little bit, but in my area, there's like 2 a year, and my whole county has like 12 or 13,000 people in it. It's just not huge, and they don't really have people coming from other counties into like the couple little markets that they have. And I believe that in order for me to do that successfully, I would need to travel probably about an hour one way. And of course, all of the fees and the fuel to get there, and then the food, and if there has to be lodging and all of that stuff. I know that I don't want to put the amount of effort into making items that it would take to counteract the cost of those, if that makes sense. So of course, like an online retailer would make more sense for me. And just to back up 1 second, I'm not saying markets are bad. I'm just saying that for me personally, in my geographic area, I don't think I could financially make the numbers work to make it worth the time and the energy and the amount I would have to be crocheting. And it would definitely cut into other things. Like, it would totally take away from a lot of my YouTube time. So for me, it's not a good option. It could be a great option for you. So online marketplaces are another great option. And I'm not going to in any way pretend to be an expert on that aspect either. I would encourage you to check out Ashley from A Crafty Concept, and I'll have her channel linked below. She is amazing at helping you identify your ideal customer and figuring out what that person wants so that you can make your booth or your online storefront very, very appealing. So with her channel, it's called Ask Ashley Live. So in like the descriptions from the lives, it doesn't always like specify what they're talking about, but it is great. If you're crocheting, just put those on. Just play a bunch of them like back to back to back. I think they're usually like a half hour to an hour, and just start listening to those because it's all Q&A. I have found so much good information from her. But to summarize what she says, and which I agree and totally believe her, that you need to do if you're going to start a business to consumer non-crochet business, is going to be finding your ideal customer. So I'm going to use an example here. And again, these are generalizations. Nothing is a hard, fast rule. But let's say you are a mom with a few younger kiddos at home. That's something where you have a good idea of what another mom at home who doesn't crochet or knit, different products that she might be looking for. That gives you a way to have several types of products in your store that kind of like build on each other, or especially if you're doing an in-person market, so you don't just have one thing. What are different things that a mom with small kids want? They might want little stuffies. They might want little rattles. They might want little girl hair bows. They might want little matching booties, maybe something that looks like a cute little Ugg boot or something. They might have a need for like very small blankets that you could put on a car seat. Or I can't think of what they're called, but it's got like, what is it called? Like a lovey? They might want those. But then they also might want baskets like crocheted baskets that they can stack diapers in, or they might want like a big basket to put all the stuffies in. There are a lot of different things when you start looking at it in that aspect. Maybe your ideal customer is like high school to college age women. Maybe you have granddaughters that age and you're making some of this stuff already. So you think, okay, what is great items for that age demographic? You could do hair bows, you could do scrunchies, you could do facial cleaning cloths. Again, you could have little trinket baskets and things like that for their stuff. You could have little mesh boleros. Like, there are things that you just look at that demographic and the things they would purchase and see what you can make that is like knit or crochet that would fit into something that, like, if that person walked into a store and they were like, oh, I love this and I can put it in this and this will look great next to this thing, and when I wear this I can put this on. It's like supporting the other products with products so that the person hopefully wants to keep adding on to that. Those are just two very random ideas. I didn't put those in my notes. I was just working with that on the fly. Don't judge me too harshly or don't follow that to a T. But if you go through Ashley at a Crafty Concepts information. She used to have a class, but she did announce she's not doing the class this year and she's pausing that right now. But she still has a ton of information on deciding who your ideal customer is. And she even goes so far as to like helping you figure out what type of color scheme does your ideal customer want and how does that fit in? Like, what type of color scheme do you want and do you like, but that your ideal customer likes? She helps you figure out like how to narrow down instead of offering a hat and having every single color of Super Saver available that they can pick and choose from, because now all of a sudden you've got to stock all that yarn. Instead of doing that, she's like, find 8 colors. You don't need any more. Find 8 colors that fit into a color scheme and have those for people to choose from. And she goes over all of that and she does it so well. I don't want to try to just regurgitate her stuff. Those are just a few highlights to kind of maybe tease you a little bit into wanting to go check out that information. But that's going to be your best bet if you're wanting to have a business to consumer non-crochet business. So let's talk about a business to consumer crocheter or knitter. Please know that if I accidentally just say crocheter, I mean crocheter or knitter. I'm just kind of using that term to represent everybody. So these crocheters that are like consumer crocheters are going to be people who aren't selling their work, who are crocheting 100% for fun and fulfillment and enjoyment. And there's a lot of things that they want that the business to business people are going to want too. I'm going to cover the business to business last, and please note that these ones kind of in the middle here definitely carry over into the business to business. But the things that you can offer a business to consumer crocheter, the most obvious is probably patterns that we're familiar with, tools, supplies, and digital products. And if that sounds a little weird and I just threw you off track, what I want to tell you is that in today's day and age, we have to look at things a little bit different. We can't look at things the way we used to. People have access to so much more information, so many more products out there, and just in general to more information and more knowledge. And people also have so much access to all kinds of different craft supplies and craft businesses. And, you know, it used to be if you wanted a t-shirt with something on it, you had to go to like a screen printing place and order it. And then you had to order a whole ton of them. And, you know, the way things are now with either print on demand or with people having their own, like, I don't have a Cricut or any of those type of machines. So if I say a Cricut machine, that's like a general term for anything like that where people are doing their own printing. But there is so much more access to all of this that we can really take advantage of that and get so much more specific. And consumers have gotten we live in an amazing time where as consumers, we can get products that are so specific to our needs and our wants and our interests that it's absolutely amazing. And you can do things out of your own skill set to help meet these needs. So let's talk about what your skill set is for a second here, because starting a business with your skill set, with the things you already know, with the things you're good at, with the things you have access to, is going to put you so far ahead of the game than if you're trying to start a business totally from scratch with something that you don't have a lot of experience with. Because you may be very experienced at crochet or knit or whatever, but you may have zero business experience. And there's a big learning curve with that. I mean, I even look at like my own with YouTube. I might have been an experienced crocheter, but when I started out, I knew nothing about how to film, how to edit. And it's taken like 2.5 years to get to a point for me personally to feel a little more comfortable with some of that stuff. So if I would have started a YouTube channel about something I knew nothing about, can you imagine how long it would have taken me to try to make a decent video? Because not only would I be trying to learn how to film and how to edit, but I'd be trying to learn how to do whatever topic. Like, I'm just going to make this up, but say it was embroidery. I don't want to say embroidery because that's like too close to being a fiber art. Say it was scrapbooking. I know nothing about scrapbooking. People love it. They're great at it. I love seeing like homemade cards, that type of stuff. But imagine how much harder it would be if I was trying to learn that skill and learn the business aspect of it. It would take forever. So starting with a topic that I knew and loved really put me ahead of the game, and I 100% think you should start there too. So if you're watching this video, you are probably a crocheter, a knitter, a fiber artist of some sort, which is how I popped up on your feed. And that's probably why you're interested in having some sort of a yarn or fiber related business. But what other skills do you have? What are you coming to the table with? Like, what is I've heard it referred to as an unfair advantage. Like, what are you doing in your work life or your prior work life that you know that you can do a little bit better than everyone else? Or maybe you're average, you're the same, but maybe you can do it more efficiently. Maybe you have access to a type of technology that other people don't have. That's your unfair advantage. And I know that sounds like I don't want it to sound like unethical or anything, but it's not. It's not. It's using what you know because you're going to be helping people with that knowledge. So outside of fiber art, your unfair advantage could be a lot of different things. It could be sewing. Maybe you have a 3D printer. Maybe you do some woodworking. Maybe you do, what is it, like this sublimation? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm using that right. Like where people put like pictures and words in tumblers. Maybe you have a Cricut machine. Maybe you don't have any of those type, but maybe you have like some awesome digital skills. Like maybe you are like super good at Canva or some other photo editing type of software. Those are all great starting places. So let's get into it. We're going to go ahead and start on the 5 types of products that you can sell and make your business around. So the first one is going to be patterns. And this could have gone in my digital column, but I feel like in our niche, patterns are a staple and it's something we're fairly used to hearing about it. So I did want it to have its own category. And for the most part, I think they'll probably be digital downloads. You could be selling them on Etsy or Ravelry or any Ribbler, any type of site. And patterns are going to hit both the business to consumer and the business to business. So your business to consumer, your crocheters, there is a huge range. Like they are going to want everything because they are crocheting or knitting for pleasure, for enrichment, for fulfillment, to make special somebody something special. So literally anything you're interested in, if you're good at it and you're good at being organized and writing patterns down and then putting them into a document that is easy to read, that's going to be a great avenue. And again, while I would encourage you to really follow some of Ashley's advice and have kind of a target person in mind when you're trying to sell patterns. So by that, I mean, if you love amigurumi, maybe concentrate on a bunch of different types of amigurumi patterns. If you're selling an amigurumi pattern of one animal, you're more than likely, if the person who did that pattern had a lot of success and they liked it, they're probably more than willing to come back and buy another one from you. And chances are they also like doing the same types of projects, where if you're doing an amigurumi, a shawl, some socks, it's a lot more hit and miss about what that ideal customer is really looking for. Not to say that you can't have success with that way, but again, it does help to narrow down your ideal customer and give that customer more of what they're into. But that being said, since they're crocheting for their own pleasure and enrichment, there's some differences between those type of consumers and the business to business type. A business to business pattern sale is going to be different in the aspect of a person selling crochet or knit items needs the pattern to be fairly quick. They need it to be not as complex because they need to do as many of them as possible with the least amount of product and time involved to generate a larger profit when they sell it. Where a consumer who's purely making things for their own fun, they can invest a ton of money on the yarn or on the pattern or on the time involved. Maybe it takes them 60 hours to make a shawl and they're absolutely in love with it because it was like the hardest stitch they ever did and they finally mastered it. But a person selling crochet or knit has different requirements. So that's something where you do really need to know who is going to be buying this and what are their needs. I just want to stress enough, patterns designed for resale projects, the goals are going to be obviously to sell a lot of them. So it does need to be cute. It does need to, be whatever, but it also needs to be affordable for the maker and not take too much of their time. All right. The next one is going to be kind of similar here. So this is going to be supplies. And this topic, I feel like, does lean itself a little more to the business to consumer, not business to business. Now with supplies, that is going to be fiber, hand-dyed yarn, hand-spun yarn, things where that person is purchasing it to make something really amazing. Because hand-spun and hand-dyed, it takes time to make those things. And if someone is going to be, unless they have a luxury brand, it's not going to be affordable for them to resell it. This was hand-dyed fiber that was hand-spun. And I will have a link to the Etsy shop below that had this, and I absolutely love it. But I'm keeping this for myself. I paid over $20 for this. And this right here is from Joanne, and it was on sale for $5. So, it's fairly obvious that if I was needing to sell a product and make a return on my investment, you want your supplies to cost much less. So this is yarn strictly for Shannon right here, where I can take the time and enjoy it and make something really beautiful for myself, where I don't have to worry about covering the cost of my expense. Where this, it is much, much easier. And again, it's commercially made, it's commercially dyed, it's commercial everything. I do really like this, by the way. It is Supernova from Big Twist. And this is called Autumn Harvest right here. And this is Sweet Pea Sid's inspiration. I'll have the Etsy, I've also said Etsy channel. I'll have the Etsy page linked below there. But this is she didn't raise the sheep to make the wool, but again, she had white wool that she hand dyed and then spun it and plied it and put it into a hank. And don't get me wrong, you very well could, with the right amount of marketing, a lot of research on the front end of starting a business, you could 100% have a super luxury brand of knit or crochet that has hand dyed or hand spun yarn. It just was going to require a lot more research figuring out how and where to market those. And I believe Ashley at Crafty Concept does cover some of that as well. Next category is tools. And you might be just like thinking, I have lost my mind at this point, but I haven't. So I have seen a bunch of different tools being made by micro businesses, people at home, and they're selling to both businesses and consumers alike. So we'll start out with the most obvious one, which is crochet hooks. I don't know about knitting on this one because I feel like what I have heard from knitters is you need like zero resistance on your needles and they need to really glide. So I'm kind of guessing, because I haven't really seen people making knitting needles, that maybe this part wouldn't apply, but definitely for crochet hooks, I have seen people make them out of wood. I have seen people make them with a 3D printer. I've seen them made out of epoxy. I have also seen people taking regular crochet hooks like Boy or Susan Bates and putting polymer clay on them. I have seen people put larger foam beads on them. I have seen all sorts of enhancements and embellishments to regular crochet hooks. So this is something that there's definitely a market for. Chances are it would be more business to consumer, but there's definitely some aspects that could also be business to business as well. Stitch markers are another great one. You don't need hardly any supplies for this. I spent, I think, about $15 to $20 on some stitch marker supplies. They're just jewelry making supplies. I got a pliers and I got this little ring that you put the jump rings on. I got jump rings and I got some little enamel charms. And then I also got some just little lobster claws. It was not expensive at all. And I was surprised how much fun that I actually had just making those up. I mean, when you look at the time you spend crocheting, even a small project, it could be, several hours, and bam, you've got a stitch marker within just a couple minutes. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And it's something where, no, you're not selling crochet, but as a crochet or a knitter, the needs that people have. And I have seen amazing stitch markers. I've seen them made out of like literally anything, like any aesthetic, any fandom, anything like that, you can find stitch markers. So it's just a really great yarn related little side hustle that you can do. And I have seen tension rings being sold. I have seen like cheap commercial ones on different sites like Amazon or different places like that. But if you have those real basic jewelry making skills, you could make those and you could make them better. You could buy one of those cheap ones, use it while you're crocheting and be like, this is what I don't like about it. It's cheap metal, or this drags, or this doesn't fit right. And you can make one better because you know what crocheters want. You can also do things like those little wooden, I don't know what they're called, like gauge checker squares, things like that. If you have the tools for making that out of wood. What also like drop spindles, I have seen a lot of those being sold. You could make something really beautiful if you have those woodworking skills. If you do think that's crazy, there is a video by, I think her name is Jillian Eve, where she's like, make a drop spindle. And I will link that below if you think I've lost my mind. But things like that are definitely possible. I know I'm probably not going to make a drop spindle, but I've started spinning some yarn on a drop spindle and I really like it, and I could see like where it would be pretty easy to make them. And while we're talking about spinning, I should go back just a moment when I was talking about the supplies and I just kind of glossed over fiber. So if you're not familiar with that, you can buy fiber. So you can buy roving, you can buy it in different, like various stages. You can buy just like undyed and then dye it. You can buy packages that are already dyed, and what you do then is you put them on a blending board, and you can make any type of different like variations, whether it's gradient or like a variegated or whatever, and you make them into these roll-logs. What you do at that point is you sell those to someone who does spin. So I apologize for getting a little back and forth there, but that's what I meant by fiber. And if you are one of those people who is super crafty and does do a lot of like other type of stuff, like the tumblers or the t-shirts, all of that stuff, personalized merch as far as a person's hobby is going to be a great seller as well. Especially when we're looking at like holiday times and stuff like that, because some people are always looking for gifts for someone who crochets or knits, and there's so many catchy little sayings and things like that you could use and put on a shirt. You could sell it just as a funny shirt for knitters, or maybe it's something where you can actually make it made to order, where you've got the funny little saying and then you actually put someone's name on it, like where they can pay a little extra for the personalization. As far as like t-shirts, sweatshirts, same thing goes for like the mugs and tumblers and stuff like that. But I also want to say, as far as merch goes, if you are someone who knows how to sew, I think Ella over at No Catchy Name is such a great example of this, where she has a nice business going of making notion bags and project bags because she's great at sewing. She has her YouTube channel, and I know I always enjoy watching her vlogs, and she's just genuine and kind and like bubbly and stuff, and I just really enjoy her. She is a great example of someone who makes a quality product, and she knows what other fiber artists want and need from a notion bag or a crochet bag, and then makes those with our needs in mind. I will link Ella's Etsy store and her channel if you're not familiar, but I'll link her Etsy store as well. Now, she does like drops, where I don't think she has stuff up all the time. I think every so often she puts like a bunch of bags in the shop and then they sell out because she's good at making them. So let's get into digital products. And I want to put a disclaimer on this little section here, because there are so many crappy YouTube advice videos out there where they're telling you to sell digital products, you'll make all this money, make a digital product, sell it on Etsy. And it's not what some of those videos want you to believe. A lot of that is horrible advice. But if you are a crocheter or a knitter or a weaver or some type of fiber artist, if you're a dyer or whatever, and you know who you're selling to and you know your craft, you can make digital products that really help and apply to them. And with a digital product, it is something where, you probably do need some skills on Canva or something like that. And then you are going to need a place to sell them, like Etsy or some other type of venue. The allure of a digital product is that you make the product one time. So you're putting your effort on the front end of this project, and you are designing a digital product. You make it the one time, you get it listed, you get all that, and then you don't really have to babysit it as much from then. So it's not like they say passive income, because that's not really true, because you put effort into it initially, but it's something where you do the bulk of your effort up front, and then you do have it listed, and then you can make money from that. Now, a lot of digital products are not going to bring in tons and tons of money, but it's the idea that if you get a lot of people spending a couple dollars, that can add up into some side hustle money. So what could these be? Because you might be thinking that I have completely lost it again. So I would say like printables are going to be one thing, and printables could be worksheets. They could be checklists. They could be charts. They could also be planners. I have made a few before that I've just kind of thrown up here and there on some different videos and shared before, where it's things that I've made that have made things a little bit easier for me. Like a while back, I had a yarn sale tracker worksheet where on it, I just put some graphics, I put my logo, and I just had like where you could list list like the type of yarn, like the type of yarn sale, the store when they usually had it, things like that, so that you know for the coming year and you can follow that year to year. And if Joanne has a certain yarn every year that goes on sale in January, that's when you want to buy it. Like that would be a simple worksheet. You can do checklists. So it could be a before you dye your first hank of yarn checklist. It could be before you start spinning checklist. I could go on and on and on, but you get the idea there. Any type of planner. I myself have like a project planner worksheet that I created for myself. I have a crochet video planner where I just have sections about what needs to be done. And these are all very useful things. And, you know, I haven't charged anything for any of this, but maybe that's something in the future that if I find like I've really perfected how I wanted it to be, maybe I would throw it up on Etsy for like $1 a download or something like that. I'm just making the dollar part up, but you get what I'm saying. Like these little tiny projects, they can add up. So the other type of digital products would be like non-printable, and you can have some fun with this. And again, they're not going to be anything that makes tons and tons of money by itself. But if you've got customers that enjoy a lot of the different things you do, some different types of projects would be like phone wallpapers, laptop wallpaper, maybe yarn related calendar where you go on Canva and you get you have the calendars for every single month, but you change all the graphics so that they're yarn related. And maybe it has like a fun, like a funny little crochet joke or an inspirational knitting quote, things like that. Quick sidebar on that one. Just so you know, the terms of service with Canva, you do need to be a little bit careful if you are using Canva Pro and you are selling products. So when you pay for Canva Pro, you are paying for the license to use certain things that do certain pieces of art. You're paying for the license to use it non-commercially. So in order to not get in trouble, you do not want to sell products that you have used images from Canva Pro with the little dollar signs. And you can search for all the images on there by free, absolutely, and use those to your heart's content. And maybe that's like a topic for a different video or whatever, so I don't get totally sidetracked there. But just be mindful in that aspect if you are using Canva Pro and making digital products or printable products to sell, is you do need to be a little bit careful there. But let's get back to it. There are just options there. If your skill set is like a graphic design, if you have an eye for that, or if you have an education in that, that is a great way to make yarn-related digital products for people who absolutely just love crochet and knit and fiber art. So there's another level of digital products that would be absolutely great for business to business. Now, this first one could also be a supply, depending on whether or not you would want to sell it as a digital download that they print out themselves and cut out and do, or if you are like doing it for them. So if someone were to order from you and you do all the printing, you do all the cutting, you package it up and send the product out for them. It could be a supply or a digital product, or you could do both if your heart desired, but that would be labels. Labels for fiber, labels for hand spun yarn, labels for hand dyed yarn is a great project if you have a little bit of those design skills. You can offer to do you could have a very general one that you just sell as a digital download. You could also have an upgrade where they pay a certain amount more and you put all their contact information on that label and then they download it. So that one could go both, but let me go back to some more that are just digital here. Other things that you can sell would be your digital services. So not so much a product, but a digital service. So assuming you like doing this type of stuff on Canva and you're good at it, you could easily design people's YouTube banners for them. Do you know how many people on YouTube just have a super random basic picture up there? What if they could have something way more personalized that actually was was an asset to their channel and, had like a tagline on it and, different things like that. That is a great service to offer. The same way goes with if you have the ability to design really great thumbnails. That's something great, a great service you can offer and sell. The same way with like designing Pinterest pins or Instagram posts. Now, these are going to be things that you can make a lot more money from because it's a service instead of a product. And you do need to really work on building a portfolio of the work that you've done before you try contacting anyone and selling those services. But it's an option. If that stuff comes easy for you and you happen to love crochet or knit and like how many times have you seen a beautiful project, but the thumbnail is like dark or grainy and you can't really see it? Or same way with like a Pinterest pin, it's just not put together really well, but you can tell that it is a good project, things like that. If you see somebody who makes absolutely great patterns and you can 100% get behind the pattern, but their pins just aren't selling it. Things like that, you can offer that as a service. And then a couple other digital services would be if you can edit. So this could be editing a video. This could be also editing like a blog post or a pattern. I know I'm not a great pattern writer. I really struggle at it. And that's why you won't find them here on my channel. And I've had to ask people for help. Like, does this make sense? Can you understand what this says? Like, it wasn't anywhere needing like a pattern tester. It was like, is this literate? Like, does this make sense? So there are people who do need help editing those type of things. On the same vein, maybe you can help someone write on their blog. You could help someone write on their Facebook page. You can ghostwrite for different people. There's a lot of people who crochet or knit who love doing that, but the idea of sitting down to write a post, it just turns them off. So that's something where if you're fantastic at writing and you know what a crocheter or knitter wants to read, that's a great segue for you to merge that hobby into money. I feel like I have been talking forever and I hope I have enough story. I hope I'm still filming. Please remember, none of these things are a guarantee that you are going to make money overnight. Business is something that you need to plan out. You don't want to just jump into any of these things and just think you're going to be amazing right off the bat. It takes research to know who you're selling to. It takes research to know what pricing you want to go with. There's a lot that goes into it, but what I can tell you is that it is worth it. And the thing that I want you to really consider here is that when some people talk about having a side hustle, maybe it's like DoorDash. I'm just using that as an example because that's gotten popular. Or maybe it's just going like aside from your full-time job, maybe a couple nights a week, you go put in a couple hours at a retail store or a gas station or something like that. If you're working 10 to 12 hours a week in your side hustle and making an hourly pay on that, while the money coming from any of these side hustles won't come immediately, like going to work for someone else and collecting a paycheck per hour, what I can tell you is that if you were to devote 10 to 12 hours a week into any of these things, you would far surpass the potential of what an hourly rate side hustle could be. And you would be doing it for yourself and you would be doing it for your future and something that you could continue to do. And that totally fits into your lifestyle. I mean, those other type of things are great, but how many people's passion is, like delivering groceries or whatever? And I'm not knocking that in any way, but if your passion is crochet, a side hustle dealing with it or like a crochet adjacent side hustle is going to bring you a lot more satisfaction. If you are still with me right now, I want to thank you so much. If you are still here, I hope that you do take the next steps to really looking into starting a little bit more of a side hustle for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and at the end of this video, I will have a very short playlist linked of a couple other business style videos I have done, but please leave any questions below so everyone can kind of benefit benefit from us talking about them. And if there's something you'd like to know more about, let me know down in the comments as well. Thank you so much for talking yarn with me. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to talking yarn again with you soon. Bye.